This is Scott from Scott in the System, and today our guest is Patrick Parks from Disability Advocates, who is Business Development Coordinator and Absolutely Accessible Cat. Hello, and thank you for coming today.
Absolutely. How's it going, Scott? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. And how did you get involved with disability advocates in Kent County exactly?
So I have been so my role, specifically the business development coordinator of our Absolutely Accessible Kent project, is a new role as of the summer of 2020. So I started in June of 2020. So I've been with the organization for about 16 months or so, I guess, a little over, maybe almost over 16 months going into November here. So that was the start, my specific start in the role. But in terms of the organization and familiarity with the organization itself, I am a wheelchair user. I was born with cerebral palsy, and so I've always kind of kept an eye on the organization. I've always been a member of the disability community in various communities that I've lived in. And so when I was looking to get back to Grand Rapids and be closer to family, I was obviously searching for jobs, and I happened to find this role and felt that with the business coursework I was doing, the public policy coursework I had already completed through degrees and other experience, felt that this role might be a good combination of those things along with my personal experience with disability. And so I guess, as they say, the rest is history, and here we are.
Well, good for you. So basically, that gives the rest of us the incentive perhaps to apply, regardless if we would get the position or not.
Absolutely. I think so one of the great things about disability advocates being a Center for Independent Living is that we are mandated to be uh, to have majorities of our staff and board be individuals with disabilities. So we like to say, we are who we serve, and so we do a great job of that. I think we've met both of those goals in terms of well over half of our staff and board being individuals with disabilities. So
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
great place to work, to serve, especially for those of us who feel that we're such a part of this community, and it's disability community is an important part of our lives. It's a great place to work and serve.
yeah. How did absolutely accessible Kent get started?
So I believe, and I'm blanking actually on the um, the country of origin, but there was an individual with a disability that was part of the Grand Rapids community and part of um, Disability Advocates of Kent County. And then I believe she was natively from, maybe it was I'm forgetting the exact country of origin, but her country of origin, she had a project that she was working on, and it was I believe it was something similar to Kent, and looking at accessibility at the city level, right? And so I think that individual was the genesis of it, and Dave and others at Disability Advocates got to thinking, how do we've had a history of doing accessibility reviews grounded in ADA compliance for the entire history of the organization, but how do we really take it to the next level and get folks with disabilities actually involved in providing lived experience type feedback along with these accessibility reviews, and how do we engage at a deeper level with municipalities, so cities, counties, townships, those types of entities. And so coincidentally, absolutely, being that Kent County is one of our flagship counties, even though we serve some outlying counties as well, Absolutely Accessible Kent made sense in terms of a name. And I apologize again, I'm blanking on the genesis of the project in the other country, but it was really due to one of our early, I guess before even the test pilot program was official, one of our early folks who was involved with the organization and had done some similar work in another place, and that was really the genesis. Is how do we really engage the expertise of people with disabilities here locally and put that to use in terms of injecting that information into, again, city, county, township type projects, and also private sector projects as well.
Okay. How is the community educated?
So in terms of the community being educated about the project, we have a variety of ways that people, or I guess a variety of touch points that folks can learn about us and get involved. Obviously, we try to be online. We have our own webpage now through the Disability Advocates of Kent County webpage. We have an Absolutely Accessible Kent page. We also have some social media on Facebook. We're further developing that and developing maybe some other outlets as well, maybe LinkedIn in the future. So those are some avenues that kind of the general public, as they're looking to learn about us, they can certainly access those pieces. In terms of how is the community educated, a lot of the work that I do and some folks I work alongside on some other teams within our organization, we try to network quite a bit with builders, developers, designers, urban planners, folks that are engaged in this kind of work throughout municipalities, and educating them really on the importance of not only accessibility, but embedding accessibility into projects on the front end, so that we're not trying to address projects on the back end. Obviously, we like to be able to address accessibility issues wherever we can in the process, but in terms of the Absolutely Accessible Kent project, it's more about educating folks on the benefits of accessibility, how accessibility can be an opportunity for innovation, because it can open you up to a whole new workforce, a whole new customer base, in terms of broadening your appeal to folks with disabilities, but then also I think it's a broader diversity, equity, and inclusion question as well, because as we know, disability crosscuts all other minority groups. And so if we're looking to increase outreach, increase diversity, addressing accessibility is one of the foundational things that you can do to increase your representation across all different types of groups. So I would say mainly networking with professionals that are engaged in these projects. In terms of community awareness of our projects, we have, and I'll get into it in a little bit as we continue talking, and I think I kind of alluded to it with the genesis of the project, but then also I mentioned our test pilots, who are simply individuals with disabilities like me, like yourself, who are just interested in volunteering with us to visit some of these places, visit some of these areas, and provide feedback on lived experiences within these spaces and what kind of innovations can be made to make the user experience better, not only for people with disabilities, but really for everyone, because we know when we address some of the issues that people with disabilities face, it can, they're not just used by those individuals, but they make life easier, and again, the user experience easier for everyone. So we have this, a core group of volunteers that we're always looking to grow. Anybody who's interested, so anybody who might be listening to us right now, and anybody that you may come across, both with and without disabilities, we would love to have them involved in our test pilot groups.
Now, educate the community, you said that information was provided on the Disabilities in Kent County website.
Yeah, so Absolutely Accessible Kent has its own kind of sub web page as part of
Okay,
the Disability
okay,
Advocates of Kent County website. So you'll see on the web page, you'll see a heading there that I think it's just titled, because we ran out of room to include the entire Absolutely Accessible Kent title. So right now it's just Absolutely Accessible, and there's a button there, and it will take you to our project webpage. There's admittedly, it's more about the foundations of the project, and we've got an introductory video there. We're still working, as we add to our portfolio, we're still working on some other content in terms of information, keeping folks informed about what projects we've worked on. But for now, it's more about, why was this project started? What are the benefits of looking at it from this angle of universal design and incorporating user feedback? And then it gives you an option for folks to get in touch with us, both from a volunteer perspective, but also from a project perspective as well.
Okay, I'll put a link in the video later for our viewers so they have access to it, so they know where to go.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great. We'd love to engage with them however they like to engage. And I can give you also my direct contact information. So if anybody's interested in learning more, either from the project side or the volunteer side, in terms of learning about the different experiences and opportunities that we might have for test pilots, I'd be happy to connect with those folks as well.
Okay, okay. As far as how people can become a test pilot, as you just explained, that is basically just becoming involved as a volunteer.
Yeah, and they don't necessarily, I should clarify that in the sense that a lot of our test pilots are also like to serve as volunteers in our organization. So they'll be involved in a variety of different capacities throughout the organization and also serve as test pilots, but that's not a requirement. If you're interested in being a test pilot, you have a disability, or you're someone even without a disability that's just interested in engaging with a group like this, really, it's quite simple in terms of getting in touch with me or getting in touch through our organization, through our website, and I will add your contact information to our contact list, and you'll immediately be plugged into any opportunities that might come up. And you'll receive updates on, our annual event that we have and any other things that might be planned in between time. So it's really an easy process. We like to make it easy. We just love to have folks involved. And so we want to do our best to, again, make it as easy as possible.
Okay. Our next question is, how do you make businesses want to be more inclusive?
I think a lot of it starts with the education around, I think too often we have this understanding of accessibility as simply a compliance issue, right? So there's this negative connotation around either meeting or failing to meet compliance, and that's obviously important under the ADA. But I think really the mindset change from a business standpoint really has to come from, sometimes most powerful is if it comes from this idea of looking at accessibility and universal design as a business opportunity, right? So I think I already mentioned it a bit in terms of opening up your business, your products, services, programs to individuals with disabilities. So there are two benefits there. Not only do you expand your customer base, but you're also, oftentimes I like to say it's an opportunity for innovation, because if you're able to create a product or a program that is modified and works for somebody with a disability, you may have created an easier user experience for everyone, even those without disabilities. And so I think when businesses, I know it's a simple framework to look at, but I think when businesses start to embrace the idea that, look, this isn't just a matter of legal compliance, this is an opportunity for us to get creative. This is an opportunity to open ourselves up to a new customer base, to a new talent pool of potential employees, and then also to maybe stumble upon some really innovative solutions to some problems that we're facing across the board, disability or not. I think those are some pretty compelling arguments to really promote the accessibility aspect of things and the universal design aspect of things. And I think you're seeing that a little bit in the tech space. I think Microsoft has done a lot of great work on that. They have a whole universal design toolkit that breaks out disability into a spectrum, permanent disability, temporary disability, and situational disability. And it really shows how modifications can be made that serve all three groups, whether you're, one easy example might be an automatic door. Works really well for those with permanent disabilities like you and me who are, use power wheelchairs, but it also works just as well for a mother pushing a stroller. In a situational from a situational standpoint or a temporary standpoint, right? And so you see how one solution can serve multiple folks, and it's not just about disabilities, but it's about, again, that user friendliness.
And I probably should have asked this earlier, but it kind of goes with what we just talked about. How does Zero Step compare to handicap accessible and universal design?
So Zero Step is a really cool project, and it primarily is run by our occupational therapy team. They do a wonderful job with it. It was a project that was actually designed well before even Absolutely Accessible Kent, and it's about how do you create, true to its name, how do you create homes that are barrier-free, zero-step homes? And so, again, those types of environments will work really well for folks like you and I as wheelchair users, but also when folks are thinking about, we know the prevalence of disability increases considerably as we age. And so when folks are thinking about wanting to age in place, wanting to stay in their homes, accessibility becomes a big factor there, and also livability too. So if you've got folks with disabilities who have family and friends, and obviously they want to be able to go visit those family and friends, home accessibility can go a long way into facilitating that community, that livability. So Zero Step, to get around more directly to answering your question, Zero Step is a set of guidelines that our occupational therapists have put together that give builders and contractors guidance in the residential space about how to create truly accessible homes that work for individuals with disabilities. So there's a lot of overlap between the terms, obviously accessible, universal design, and then Zero Step. They all kind of come from a similar mold or a similar place. But yes, so our Zero Step program really focuses on the residential piece of the equation, because while we have the ADA for places of business, public places, in terms of creating that bare minimum accessibility standard, there really are no even bare minimum standards for accessible homes. And so oftentimes when folks are looking for a new home, whether it be looking to purchase or build a new home or renovate, they're left without much of a resource to work from. And so accessibility, I'm sorry, Zero Step provides that that accessibility knowledge base, that resource that they can use from in all of those situations, really. So I think as kind of a step-by-step manual, if somebody's looking to incorporate all of the kind of considerations, probably works best from a new construction standpoint. But that's not to say that there are not places where, you know, renovations can learn as well and, you know, gain some insight. So I'd say it's for folks looking to create accessible homes all across the board, whether it's um, you know, new construction, renovation, etc.
Okay. That sounds very interesting. I think that I would be a good candidate for another show to talk to them directly about Zero Stop.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure, and I can connect you certainly. I'm sure that
Yeah,
one of the OT team folks would be interested in
yeah,
coming on and talking about it more because I know how much
yeah,
they enjoy engaging wherever they can in terms of
yeah,
helping folks
yeah.
improve their accessibility.
I'm really interested to see how much they have educated like the realty market. So, realtors and so on and so forth can help, individuals with disabilities to, have more of a chance for owning their own home.
Yeah, no, I think you've hit the nail on the head and identified a real market need. I think realtors, you know, broadly speaking, I don't think there's been a lot of education unless they've come across situations personally in their own lives or their family lives where they've had to come face to face with disability. I don't know if I think it's kind of an afterthought at times, especially when you're young and you're you know, not experiencing disability at certain points in life. Um, they don't, folks don't necessarily think about the importance of, you know, barrier-free entrances and features. And so I definitely see a huge market opportunity in terms of better educating realtors to point out not only existing features, but also places where, okay, this home has, you know, if you're going to do some renovation, this home has better potential to achieve that than another home or something of that sort. And so that's something that, you know, the OT team is working on building those connections. That's something that I'm always working on when I'm out in the community trying to connect folks with accessibility more broadly. I really want to grow our base of realtors that we're working with. So I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I think it's definitely a market need, especially as people age. I know, so there's a statistic out there that, and I think it's still quite accurate, saying that 10,000 people turn 65 and 10,000 baby boomers turn 65 per day, and that will be the case for the next 19 years or so. And so, as people age and as their needs change, you know, the need for home accessibility and the desire to stay in their homes is always going to be there. It's going to be a constant, but it's going to be a growing constant as well. So I think you're absolutely right, and I think that's a major hope of our organization is that we can continue to be that education source for folks for you know, builders and developers on one side, but also realtors as well, to help them know what to look for and help them know how to best assist clients. I think it's going to be, you know, majorly helpful when and I don't know if you've mentioned this on your show before, but we are moving to a new space in about April or so, April of 2022. And that space is going to be a collaborative space with a whole host of other organizations. Special Olympics Michigan is kind of a lead tenant in that space, but there are some other organizations that serve other facets of the disability community as well. And one of the things that we're really excited about as part of being an occupant in that space is having what we're calling the Home Accessibility Center. So we're going to be able to build out some examples of here's what inaccessibility in the home looks like, but also here's what accessibility can look like. So this can be a place for consumers to come and, you know, kind of test drive maybe some products and solutions, but also builders, realtors, other designer type folks as well, to be able to say, you know, here are some products, here are some solutions available with which to help clients. And so I think we're really excited about that and having a tangible space where we can bring people to help them visualize what might be possible.
And how can the community request consulting for their project? And as well, are there incentives to encourage them?
So yeah, in terms of community outreach, again, if folks happen to come across our website or any of our content that we have across the internet, they can feel free to reach out to us. And I usually come across those emails directly and can connect with them in terms of having a consulting meeting with them and figuring out their, you know, what their project needs are and how we can best help them. So that's one avenue. The other avenue is just to, you know, as we've been out in the community, as they see us, you know, we're always open to having folks join us on excursions that we take in downtown Grand Rapids and elsewhere. And we often have what we call design charrettes as well that will focus on a certain area or a certain project and allow folks to see firsthand the kind of feedback that comes out of sessions like that. And so that's another avenue where we've connected with a lot of folks. They've attended our, you know, one of our sessions or one of our events, and they've gotten connected with us that way. So it's really, we're still in terms of Absolutely Accessible Kent, we're still a pretty small operation, just scratching the surface, I think, of where we can go. But I would say, yeah, the best way to get in contact with us about projects is to reach out to me directly. And like I said, I can leave you with my contact information on Patrick Parks, and my email is just patrick.p@dakc.us. I'd be happy to network with anybody there. In terms of the incentives that folks may have, or the, I guess, financial incentives that may be in place, that's a little bit more difficult to kind of put a finger on because it varies by area and it varies by funding available. One of the nice things that we've seen, we have a great partnership with Downtown Grand Rapids, Inc., the development authority for downtown. And whenever they have proposed new projects or initiated requests for proposals in terms of developing areas, they've started to place a requirement in some of those applications wanting to see universal design elements incorporated into those projects. And so as part of maybe trying to win the bid for certain projects downtown, universal design has become a factor there, which provides a nice incentive for folks if they want to be, you know, chosen as winning projects. And so that's kind of one incentive there that exists. But yeah, there can be, depending on the area, there can be some funding to help with accessibility modifications. And like I said, I won't get into too many specifics because it varies by area and it varies by project, but there are funds available and we can do our best to, they're not always exhaustive funds, so they may help to cover maybe an elevator, or they may help to cover a certain aspect of a project, but we can certainly help connect folks as best we can.
Okay. And I think we already covered the last question. how individuals can become involved.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we covered a lot from a lot of different touch points, but again, I guess I would just encourage anybody who might be interested, whether they have a disability or not, to reach out to me, and we'd love to have them involved. Obviously, people with disabilities kind of form the core of what we do because they provide the great insights from lived experiences, right? So we especially love to have individuals with disabilities, but we are a big tent, and we enjoy anybody who might be interested in working alongside us.
Okay, yes. Well, thanks again for coming today. Appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely, Scott. Look forward to maybe chatting with you in the future. And I hope this has been helpful to a lot of folks. Again, I just encourage them to reach out to me. And if I can help them, that's wonderful. Or if someone else on our team, we do a lot of other, we have a lot of other type assistance programs and things that can be of help to folks. So I'm happy to provide those connections as well. So I would just encourage anybody who's watching and has any questions to reach out to us. Check out our website, check out our organization.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely, Scott. Thank you.